Oh, please.
You might want to make sure that if you don't want to be in the stream, you literally make it so that you cannot share audio.
Please never talk again.
Chapter 1. Dead Man's Party. I stood in front of today's schedule, still holding my skateboard, still drenched from the ride over, and still desperately wishing that I hadn't dropped out of college, but wishing wouldn't erase Sam from the counter slot and rewrite it under the grill slot. No matter what, my job kinda sucks, but on the grill, it sucks less. On the grill, you don't have to handle customers. Something about the fast food uniform makes people think it's okay to treat you like crap. Personally, I'm always polite to anyone who handles my food. There are lots of horrible things that can be done to your meal before it gets to your plate. Maybe I could switch? No.
So,
the schedule
in
told me.
Callous fanfic, the Drifter was killed by eating. And also, he ate his own ghost. What the fuck?
Yeah, Callous fanfiction, obviously. Don't want to ask
Yeah,
questions
Callous
about it.
fanfic had the Drifter eat his ghost.
Yeah, I saw that video earlier today.
The schedule told me
Like, an hour ago.
Ramon worked grill today. Nothing short of $50, and a 12-pack would have made him switch. And I didn't have either of those. I groaned and leaned my head against the wall. Someone walked in after me and slapped me on the shoulder. "You should have stayed in school," he said. I recognized Ramon's voice without opening my eyes. Not surprisingly, since I'd known Ramon since 6th grade. I wasn't shocked by his lack of sympathy either. "You didn't drop out, and yet you're still here," I said, rolling my head to the side to look at him. "What, and leave my man Sammy all alone? What kind of friend would that make me? A smart one." He laughed and tossed his black hoodie on to the coat hooks, trading the sweatshirt for an apron. I did the same, but with much less enthusiasm. English words.
It's okay. Keep going.
Ramon was the only person who called me Sammy. Everyone else called me Sam. Even my mom. Except when she was pissed. And did the full name thing.
Oh, shit.
I signed on my register. Slowly. Glad that nobody stood at the counter waiting to be helped. While the manager, Kevin, counted and checked my till, I stared at the pictogram of a burger nestled between similar representations of shakes, sodas, and fries on the front of my register. I wondered why humankind Walter?
Continue?
Walter?
Yeah.
Walter? Why?
Why what?
I wondered why humankind.
Guy, move your player down here.
You care to explain?
I put down a campfire.
The only
brother.
thing I heard was, I wonder why humankind.
Yeah, you
That's all.
wonder. You
I
care
put
to
down a
explain?
campfire.
I have no clue what you're asking.
Humankind.
What about human... I can't explain that.
Gonna go make.
What's with the liberal words here?
I don't know.
I'm scared. Humankind
You're
seems
scared,
so
I am.
dead set on destroying all of its accomplishments. We draw on cave walls, spent thousands of years developing complex language systems and printing press, computers, and what do we do with it? Create a cash register with a picture of a burger on it. A burger. Just in case the cashier didn't finish the second grade. One step forward, 2 steps back. Like an evolutionary cha-cha real smooth. Can you not sound on fire? Working here just proved that the only thing separating me from a monkey was pants. And no prehensile tail, which I wish I had. Oh, the applications. My name is Samuel Corvez Lacourx, and I am a fry cook. Thank you. Of course you would know it. And I am a fry cook.
Samhan Corvus LaCroix.
Thank you. And I tried to take some pride where I could. If I was going to be a dropout loser, then I was going to be the best dropout loser. Sounds like something Walter would not do.
Something like Star would do.
Exactly. That pride came with some... Wait, I just realized... When you're on P3, it looks literally like a face.
Doesn't it?
That pride came with some complications because it always depressed me to spot anyone short of a manager working fast food over the age of 18. I didn't look in any mirrors until I got home and out of my uniform. It was better that way.
That's depressing.
There you go, Sam. Kevin shut my till and wandered off. We had a bet going to try and guess what it was he did in his office. Frank was pretty sure he was into some sort of online role-playing game. Ramon thought he was planning to take over the Yakuza, and Brooke was convinced that he had a crippling addiction to romance novels. That's a big oof right there. This is a romance novel I'm reading right now. Oof.
That's a bit weird.
Walter knows why I got the book.
Yeah, werewolf.
Exactly, werewolf. These
Only
are
werewolf, nothing.
These are all sounded possibilities except for Ramon's. Though he insisted he had proof. But I didn't think Kevin could be that interesting. He probably just slept. Kevin also had the misfortune of sharing his name with my biological dad. I hate my dad.
He has a reason, though.
Yeah, I know. So Ramon referred to our manager as the lesser of two Kevins. I slapped on my name tag and settled in. I had my mom to thank for my name. My dad took his sweet time showing up to my birth. Sounds reasonable. And in an uncharacteristic moment of spite, she named me Samuel just to tick him off. Apparently my dad wanted to name me Richard or Steve. Minecraft Steve?
Or bad name.
Or something. But Mom just got there first. And since I happened to be born on the happy pagan holiday of Samhain, Samhain? I don't know.
Samhain.
Thank you.
Samhain, whatever. I don't know how
Well,
it's actually
there you go.
pronounced.
I'm just lucky I wasn't born on President's Day. She might have named me Abraham Lincoln, and there's no way I could pull off a stovepipe hat. What is a stovepipe? Stovepipe
The
hat.
hat that
Stovepipe.
Thank you.
Stovepipe.
Yeah, when I was asking what's a stovepipe hat, I realized that I said the
it's like
hat
a
wrong.
Fuck.
to
I died.
radiate, my dad started calling me Sam since he said swine. Which one is it, Walter?
Chicken.
Ah! I died.
Swin. There we go, Swin.
How is it spelled?
Sowin.
Sown?
Hey, Warface,
Sowen.
what you playing?
Sown, which is how Samhain is pronounced. I'm attempting. Is
I
pronounced.
can tell you don't live in America with that education.
I live in Canada. I live in Quebec.
Yeah. Not just Canada, you live in Quebec. Do you lag
Exactly.
out?
Sounded funny. I need to invite him. I don't know. He's playing Titanfall 2. It's just us. Or you. I'm just here.
I'm listening.
It sounded funny. Their divorce surprised no one. The Plumpies crowd was in a loo, so I watched Frank, the other counter jockey, triple check his condiments, napkins, and the rest of his fast food accoutrements. Frank was younger than me, and so he still had a little enthusiasm for his work. Brooke, Ramon, and I had all started a pool on how long it would take for this place to suck the life out of him. If he cracked next week, I got $10. Brooke had this week, and she was doing her best to get Frank to break early. Makes sense. I don't know about you, but I would do that. Brooke left her station at the drive-thru window, and Saturday?
I'm gonna follow along. What page are you on?
I'm on 4. I don't know
Page
that
4.
word. And Sunturd, but it's the E and the R. It doesn't help me. Over to the milkshake machine. Wait,
Sauntered.
milkshake machines actually work in this world? I'm scared.
It's Plumpy's, not McDonald's.
Oh, that makes sense. Sorry, ice machine broke.
Yep.
I wasn't much older than Brooke, but she was young enough and tiny enough that Rahman and I both spent more time protecting her than
Thank you for the
Ugling?
Minecraft content. Really
Ogling.
appreciate it, Sky.
What? I received this comment on my stream. I gotta see this comment.
I'm watching the broadcast just because.
I don't know who Kinksy is, but thank you for your comment.
Warface wants to invite back.
I invited him.
No, he's just being a little bitch.
I invited him. Why did start, join, and then leave? Anyways. Ogling her. Not that we couldn't do both, really. I just felt a little dirty after. What is that? What does that mean? Stare at in a... Alright, that's what that means. I was trying to figure out what ogling means. Not that we couldn't do both, I just felt a little dirty after. But I couldn't help my programming And Brooke looked like a cheerleader in a dairy commercial. Yeah, we use different spelling, so yeah, for a lot of things. Bouncy, blonde, ponytail, clear blue eyes, and a wholesome smile. You know I like them wholesome smiles. A wholesome smile that could turn any guy into a man putty. Frank didn't stand a chance because although she tended to be a sweet girl, she could be devious when she wanted something. I probably wouldn't get my $10. Brooke finished pouring a large strawberry shake, snapped the lid on, and turned to look at Frank while she took a long sip from the straw. He ogled? What does that mean? So the first one, ogled. I watched as she slid her hand over it and flipped the machine's off switch. Frank manned. He missed the tiny movement, his eyes intent on her lips as wrapped around the straw. She sauntered back to her station, and I wondered how long it would be until Frank noticed the machine was no longer chuggling behind him. If she kept on the offense, Brooke would have him in tears before the weekend. Sounds like a fun workplace. Minor makes... I can't tell you. After about 2 hours, a dozen swirly customers, and a minor shake machine malfunction, I decided to take a quick break. Frank could mop up, shake mix, and man the counter. Sure, the mess might make him crack early, but if I helped him, he'll never learn, and really wasn't learning more important. I saluted him and hopped over the mess, stepping out back with Ramon. On the way, I grabbed... I'm not going to say Raymond. Ramon sounds better. It sounds cooler, in my opinion. It's the way I'm calling him. Therefore, he's staying that way from now on. It sounds better to me, at least. I grabbed my broom and the door stop, so we could leave the back door open in case someone needed to shout for us. Ramon had quit smoking a year ago, but he never let that get in the way of a good old smoke break. Yeah, I had never smoked in the first place, but that didn't keep me from taking one either. And since the rain had finally vamooshed, nothing stood between us and a decent game of potato hockey. Alright. It is a relatively straightforward game. You get a medium-sized potato and 2 brooms. Designate the goal areas, and you're ready to go. Today, Ramon defended the garbage bin by Plumpy's back door, and I defended a shiny silver Mercedes Benz because, according to Ramon, it represented the privilege. Alright. The privileged white... I don't know that word. I actually don't. We've never had... we don't have that word in Quebec. Yeah. No, we have Latino people. Yeah, sorry, Jacob. Sorry, Jacob, you're not... We don't have you in Quebec. Exactly. Our deal? Our duel. There we go, that's the word. Not deal. Ramon said, spinning his broom like a boo staff. Will represent the struggle our nation's currently engaged in. Please, we both know you're just going for home team advantage. You wound me, Sam. I can't help it if your cracker-like oppression gives me the better playing field. It's funny. He did a quick hamstring stretch. Suck it up. Fine, I said. Then I get the handicap. Sam, you're Texas. Texas always gets the handicap. I'm Team Texas again? He grinned, rolled his shoulders, and wiggled his arms, loosening them. Yeah, I want to read it so I can... Yeah, it's story time with Sky. Shush.
Get to the closing of Plumpies, it gets way more interesting.
The closing
Because the
of
book only
Plumpies.
takes place... The book only takes place in like
Albert
a
changed
couple
his
days.
Albert
or a week
changed
or
his
whatever.
thing. Albert went from King not King, Slipper Gaming to King C.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, on YouTube too.
Oh. Don't worry, I'm gonna watch your stream right now.
I gave up and nodded at the Mercedes-Benz. It looked old and expensive, especially in our parking lot. Shiny? Nah, doesn't ever happen here. You see, I'm just going to continue talking as if I'm the character. That's how I work.
Sky, what's your YouTube channel? That's weird.
Ramon snorted. Classic. Check out the glowing doors. Fine. Classic shiny. Ramon tossed an empty Plumpy's cup into the dumpster. Sometimes, Sammy, I question your manhood.
Blank.
Person, man.
Oh, I lost you. Where are you?
A car is to get you from one place to another. That's it. Ramon shook his head at my ignorance. Whatever. Just try not to dent the car, Team Mexico. It's Team South America, he said. You do know that Mexico is in North America, right? Yeah, but I have the whole continent behind me. He held up his fist dramatically. They support their cousin to the north. I laughed as he dropped his hand back down. And it's that guy's own fault for parking it in our lot so he could sneak over to Eddie Burr or Starbucks or whatever. What is Eddie Burr?
I don't know. Probably a Seattle thing.
UV. What is that word? U Village was an open-air shopping orgy that sat behind Plumpy's restaurant between the Gap,
Abercrombie. Your pronunciation is amazing, dude.
I've never seen that in my life, so. And not one by two freestanding Starbucks. The place attracted a certain clientele that rubbed the Ramon the wrong way. Mostly because U Village had its own parking structure, but their customers still parked over here because it was slightly closer. I didn't know why that pissed him off, because he didn't like Plumpies either. Maybe it was the principle of the thing. I was more disgusted than annoyed by the effort put forth by people just so they didn't have to walk 10 extra feet. I leaned down to tie my shoe, the leather pouch around my neck sliding out from under my shirt. I slid it back in without really thinking about it, a habit born from years of repetition. Personally,
Repetition.
thank you. Personally, I didn't think U Village was totally awful. Some of the food was good, and I found it hard to hate the bookstore. Of course, the bookstore contained the third Starbucks in the complex. Whatever, I said. Game on, and I rolled the potato into the center. Brooke came out to watch after Ramon scored another goal, making the score a depressing 4-1. Ramon, order up, she said. She reached for his broom. I'll pinch hit in your absence. And leave Frank all alone up there? He asked. Brooke grinned deviously. That's my girl, Ramon said. He had already lost the bet, so he was now considered a free agent and worked to aid both of us. The important thing is, he felt the important thing he felt was that Frank cracked, not who won. Ramon handed Brooke his broom and walked inside. The devil in pigtails, I said. Her grin widened as she adjusted her stance. Okay, I said. But we're switching sides. Brooke straightened up and sighed. Fine, I'll be Texas. I could be a man and admit that Brooke was much better at potato hockey than I. That's how we don't say instead of me. Instead, at potato hockey than me, we say instead of I.
Well, main mention.
Did Sark join the party?
Playing Minecraft in the gaming section. And you're
Boyfriend,
reading
why
the
are we
book.
doing Crucible?
Yes, I am playing
Perfect for
Minecraft.
children, am I right?
You don't have
Yeah.
to read the book the entire fucking way.
I'm
playing
reading the book
Minecraft.
until chapter 2.
Why
And then
until
I'll-
chapter 2?
And then
Hold
I'll
on.
read it later on from chapter 2.
Oh no. I think chapter 2 might be a while.
When does chapter 2 happen?
19?
19?
Yep.
No.
Alright, where was I?
Calm down.
I didn't know what sports she played in high school, or if she just worked out,
Workers, please
but
be
she
quiet.
was a better athlete than I was. I didn't even skateboard very well. My board could move from move me from point A to point B. Okay? But I couldn't really do anything fancy on it, like Ramon, so I didn't feel the least bit ashamed in asking for the home field advantage. We crouched down, brooms ready. I saw the faintest twitch between Brooke's eyes before she flipped the potato into the air with a tight-packed bristle.
Why are they
her
flipping
broom.
my kind? Because I'm running out of ammo. I'm running out
Then
of
she
ammo.
leaned back and gave it a whack with the handle. I blocked
I
it
used to-
from the garbage bin, barely, but only by slamming my own body into the bin's green chipped side and taking the spud directly in the chest.
Are you
I
only going
squinted
to
at
read
her.
the book while streaming?
Yes.
Oh my god, this is going
Dirty
to take
move.
so long.
My brother played lacrosse. I've heard that. We both hunkered back down.
Fuck you.
Eyes never leaving each other as the breeze pushed the gray clouds overhead. I blocked out the chatter from the shoppers in the distance and the sounds from the kitchen
I'm
behind me.
using my wrong loadout.
Then I tried to duplicate Brooke's move. I didn't have any brothers who played lacrosse. Hell, I didn't have any brothers, period. Though I'm pretty sure my little sister, Haley, could have given Brooke a run for her money. My lack of skill meant that my shot had force behind it, but little aim. The potato flew as far as to the right, that Brooke didn't even try to go for the block. I got the point, but in classic
Oh, no,
Shiny
I'm getting
got a broken tail light.
I got clapped.
And that's why the story all begins.
Yes, that's why the story began.
GG no
Now
read.
let's just continue going to chapter 2. Do I really need to read chapter 1?
Read as much as you want. Then
Do
go
I
on
really-
Destiny so you can
Do I really need to read chapter 1 though?
Worth it.
That's where, okay, you can skip a couple pages, so.
What is a couple of pages? Because I'm at page 9.
I'll check, hold on. You can kill me. So...
Star, what are you doing?
Playing Minecraft.
What are you doing?
Just looking for a cave.
Looking for a cave. Go
I
make a
got
strip
kicked.
mine.
No.
Alright, go to page 11.
Page 11.
11, and it's after that little break. You know, in the last
So
hour
in the
before
last
closing.
hour before closing, I crouched under a table with a putty knife and chipped old gum away. I led a very exciting life. Brooke was going to make Frank do it, so I offered before that could happen. Instead, he got to sweat, and I was that much closer to winning the pool. Brooke chuckled behind the counter, blocking out teeth and drawing mustaches
Put the
on the
sword
people.
away, Warfares.
on the people pictured on our tray liners. There were no customers, and the only sound besides the scrape of my putty knife was Frank's sweeping. And
Don't
Frank's
use a sword.
sweeping was Ramon. Or who for some reason hummed show tunes while he cleaned the grill. Right then it sounded like Lucky Be a Lady. Luck Be a Lady, there we go. He danced to. Ramon was a triple threat. As I ran the putty knife along the wood-style plastic for the table, I wondered why people would pick this as the final resting place for their gum. Seriously, we had garbage cans, trays, wrappers, hell, they could stick it on Frank. So why always the table? Well, I considered this. I heard the door swing open. The sound wasn't loud, but I hadn't expected anyone else to come in so late on a weeknight, especially with what appeared to be dress shoes. Plumpy's caters to the sneaker set. I tilted my head so I could peek out. The man seemed to be of average height, but since I was laying on the floor, it was hard to tell. Everyone looks tall from that angle. I twisted my head so that I could follow him with my eyes. As he got closer to Brooke, I decided that he must be just an inch or two shy of 6 feet. He was skinny too, but lean. But he gave off the impression of being much bigger than he was. His shoes weren't like anything I'd seen in a department store, and his charcoal suit looked expensive. He had an old-fashioned doctor's bag in his left hand, and a piece of potato in his right.
Why do you guys keep killing yourself?
Shit. He held the potato out to Brooke. I'd like someone to explain this. The guy had a preacher's voice, smooth and rolling, worn with use. That voice sent a shiver of unease down my spine. I froze. Under the table, not even daring to bring my arm and putty knife back down.
I have no ammo, literally.
Brooke looked at the man, her eyes cool, her body language sane, casual indifference. She pointed one dainty finger at the man's right hand. "It's a potato," she said. The man didn't respond. you know, a kind of tuber grows in the ground, almost killed Ireland. Any of this ring a bell? I could see
No.
Brooke's face and the pink fingernail polish as she was wearing as her hands glistened at the man. I know what it is, he said. Then why did you ask? Brooke rested her hip on the counter and crossed her arms. The man didn't move, but I saw his grip tighten on the handle of his bag. I stayed motionless under the table, even though my arm
It's hard
was
using two snipers.
even though my
time.
arm was getting tired from holding the putty knife up. I didn't know why Brooke wasn't scared of the man, but my guess was that being the only girl raised alongside a bunch of galactic lacrosse-playing male siblings had more than one benefit. When she first started going to shows with me, I'd only insisted on staying close to her, afraid she might take a rogue fist from the mosh pit or get swallowed by the sweating mass of the audience. That was until I saw her split the lip of an overly affectionate drunk at an all-ages show at El Corazon.
Okay.
Brooke doesn't scare easy. I wish I could say the same about myself. The man took a deep breath. His grip relaxed around the handle of the bag. I could only see the back of his head, but I bet his anger never showed up on his face.
Fuck you, I'm out.
What I want to know is why it was in the broken taillight of my car, which is in this parking lot. Brooke put her elbows on the counter and cupped her chin in her hands. "Oh, I love riddles," she said. She kept her eyes wide and innocent, her pink lips straight. Her blonde ponytail slipped forward, and she absolutely twirled the end of it with one
Whisper
finger.
out the words.
Brooke had long ago mastered the vapid
That's funny.
look. I give up. Why did you put a potato in your taillight? I didn't. It was there when I got back. Brooke's eyes got a little round. Oh, a
He has
mystery.
anger. You gotta mention, he has anger when he says all this.
I said that his anger didn't show up in his face.
This is not a good sniper for far away distance. I'm sorry.
She straightened back up off the counter and let the vapid look fall away. Her eyelids drooped a little, and her lip quakered up at one side. Pure devilish disdain. Well then,
I forgot this
I'll
is more
just
of an
get
aggressive
Shaggy and
sniper.
Scooby and we'll get right on it, mister. The man laughed, and I couldn't help thinking that it was the most joyless sound I'd ever heard. Ramon
I
sauntered
literally
up from the
forgot.
back, drying his hands on a towel. "Is there a problem here?" He'd asked Brooke, but kept his eye on the man. The man held up a potato. "I found this in my shattered taillight." Ramon shrugged. "I don't know anything about it. I'll be grateful if I was you," Brooke added. "Your car could have been impounded for being in our lot. That's why we have signs posted every 2 feet saying, 'For Plumpy's customers only,' and park at your own risk. We aren't a parking lot garage. We're a dining establishment that serves
Sorry. I'll
potatoes,"
kill myself.
the man said softly. He sat the remnants down on the counter.
I was gonna kill myself.
No, I get the kill.
See,
Okay,
she
come get
shrugged
free kill.
one shoulder. "A mashed potato taillight is getting off
No, he's
easy."
coming to kill me. It's just that you keep trying to kill me first.
The man pushed the
Yeah.
offending
Okay.
Spud closer to Brooke before straightening up and squaring his
deserve that.
shoulders. He inclined his head. The manager, if you will. He's busy, Ramon said. We all know that Lesser Kevin wouldn't come out of his office unless it was closing time or the building was burning to the ground. Ramon's eyes flickered down to where I hid under the table. His eyebrow raised just a twitch, and I shook my head faintly. I didn't know who the complaining man was, but he scared me. The primitive part of my brain screamed predator, and I believed it. With predators, if you're seen, you're eaten. And this man, in his expensive but understated gray suit, could swallow me whole. Ramon looked back at the man, but it wasn't fast enough. I watched the man glance over his shoulder, just a short peck down to me hiding under the table before he returned his attention to the counter. I let a breath out slowly and tried to stop my hands from shaking. He hadn't really seen me. Then he jerked back around, his footsteps echoing in the empty restaurant as he headed my way. I scooted further under the table, but I could feel the uselessness of the action already. The man leaned down, grabbed me by my Plumpy's t-shirt, and dragged me into the open. I heard Brooke and Ramon shout something, but I couldn't make it out. All my attention was focused on the brown eyes of the man in front of me. Lean as he was, he held me up by the shirt with little effort. Hanging like that was awkward, so I grabbed his wrist for balance. I felt a cold snap of electricity like frozen static shock, and I immediately released his wrist.
Jesus. Walter, what the fuck? No, I'm joking.
What? He said
Nah,
slowly. Do you think you're doing here? I work here? My lips felt cracked and dry all of a sudden. He tightened his grip on me and pulled me closer. Not really a place I wanted to be. I swallowed hard. Not here, fool. Seattle. I live here? His face got even closer, and I grabbed at his wrists again. The shock was still there, a chill crackling up my arms, but I held on anyway. Unpleasant, but I didn't want to let him get his face any nearer to mine. The man's voice dropped to a low whisper. You live here, and you haven't petitioned the council? Huh? When you moved here, you should have contacted us. Asked permission. He looked down at my name tag. Sam. Oh, good. He was crazy and scary. What an awesome combination. I let go of his wrist with one hand and leveraged myself back enough so I could pull my t-shirt out of his grip. It's grip. I dropped to the floor, knowing full well that he let me do it. I have always lived here, I said. On exciting each word in that particular way people do when speaking with the insane. I straightened out my shirt. I was born here and had never heard of any council. Impossible, he said. I would have known. His face was an odd mix of concern and disdain. Perhaps my mother forgot to send you an announcement. My hands shook. I shoved them into my pockets. At least that way the shaking would be less visible. Is there a problem? Lesser Kevin had finally come out of his office. I didn't look at him, thinking it was best to keep my eyes firmly on whatever threat this man represented. My body still wanted to run, screaming in the other direction, but I held it there anyway. I couldn't quite figure out which would be the safer choice. No, sir, I said, no problem. A moment passed as the man stood, eyes still locked on me, face unreadable. Then he grinned, the smile unfurling slowly on his face, reminded me suddenly of the old Grinch cartoon they show on TV every year during Christmas. It's much creepier on a human face than on an animated one. He reached over and re-straightened my shirt. No, he said, just a misunderstanding. As the man turned towards Lesser Kevin, his face lit up, changing the smile to something lighthearted and normal. A case of mistaken identity. You know how it is. Kevin looked confused. My employee tells me you had a complaint about your car?
I'm dead.
Behind Kevin, Frank cowered, his eyes wide, broom still firmly in his hand. He gave me a little wave. The stranger shook his head in dismissal. No, it's not a big deal. Again, a simple misunderstanding. He walked over and shook Lesser Kevin's hand. Kevin still looked short of a prince. Walter, word. Walter. Of appreciative. But he didn't seem to be having the same problem touching the stranger as I did. In fact, the contact seemed to relax him. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. He turned to leave, but nodded in my direction on his way out. Sam, he said, like he was my friend. But it wasn't friendly. It was ominous. Like when my mom spoke my name in public with the tone that meant I was going to get an earful once we were home. That is the end of chapter 1. Practically the end of chapter 1. I skipped one page.
Practically. What page did you skip?
9 and 10. That's one side. That's the end of the stream.